So the question is, why can it be hard to stick to a budget? And I have, um, what? So the question is, why can it be hard to stick to a budget? Budgets are living documents, they're breathing documents. We adjust and shift as things happen, as we get a new family member, as a family member passes away or moves out of our house, as we have different pets or we lose a job or we get a new job. There's always this fluctuation of maybe higher inflation rates. So things that you've budgeted for years to be one price are now significantly higher. And the idea behind here is not really to come up with the be all end all answer of how to stay attached to a budget, how to always be within budget, but more to create awareness for how things can go sideways and attempt to prevent some of those main things from happening. So, the main things, in my opinion, where people get caught off guard are as follows. One, emergencies. Something happens with your pet. Now, the difference between an emergency when it comes to a pet is getting vaccines or getting a spay or neuter is not an emergency. Your pet being hit by a car or all of a sudden becoming very, very ill is an emergency. So there are these situations that exist, but we have to look at it from the perspective of what's an emergency and what's not an emergency. If you choose to have a pet, you should have a line item in your budget that is for your pet food, your vaccines, your flea treatments. If you live in a place that has heartworm issues for heartworms, things like that. And other things that you spend on your pets. Maybe you need to have your pets groomed. Maybe your pets go to doggy daycare. Whatever those cases are, those are regular and expected expenses. So those aren't going to be part of that emergency fund. But things that are part of that emergency fund can be, like I said, an unexpected bill for your pets. Maybe you had to go to urgent care for some reason, or your child did. Maybe somebody hit your car and you have to have repairs before you can drive your car again. Those are emergencies. So, the first place most people get off budget are going to be emergency situations because they don't have an emergency fund. Dave Ramsey says start with $1,000. If you have debts, mortgages, student loans, things like that, start with just having $1,000. You can up it to maybe $2,000 with current inflation rates, in my opinion, to cover most emergencies. And most places, if you communicate with them that this is an emergency and it wasn't in your budget, will come up with a payment plan for you. It might be only 3 or 6 months, but it's better than no payment plan at all, right? So first way that's hard that we can mitigate is emergency funds. Second way is impulse spending. A lot of us tend to go, oh, there's just a soda over here, I'm going to go grab it, or there's a coffee here, I'm going to grab it. Or oh, this thing's on sale that I wasn't planning on purchasing, but I'm going to grab it because it's on sale. Those are impulse purchases. If you are an impulse spender, make an impulse line in your budget. Okay, have a line that says, okay, I'm going to spend $20 a week on whatever the heck I want to. And if that's hard for you to do, put it in an envelope. And if the cash doesn't exist, you can't impulse spend. That regulates it to a specific amount of your budget. Secondarily to that is if the purchase is over a certain amount. In my household, if the purchase is over $50, we have to wait 24 hours before we buy it. And when we wait 24 hours, it makes us stop and think long enough to go, do I really need that thing or did I just want it because it was there? And or do I have something at home that already does what that thing does? And that tends to help mitigate a lot of those impulse purchases. Um, Another reason, the third reason, is a lack of accountability. Many of us who are single, or maybe don't have a good working relationship with our partners, or our partners and you and your partner keep separate finances, don't have someone keeping you accountable to stick to your budget. So while in our culture currently, it's kind of taboo to talk about money, the best thing you could do is change that. Talk about money, be willing to communicate. Maybe it's with your parents when they sit down to do a budget, you sit down and do a budget with them. Maybe it's your roommate, maybe it's your friend. Maybe once a month, you and your friends get together, have beverages of your choosing, and do your budgets together. But somebody keeping you accountable for things and knowing what your financial goals are can help keep you on track. It's a lot easier, just like, say, going to the gym, to go, I don't feel like going to the gym today. No one's going to know and disregard that step than it is if I don't feel like going to the gym today, but I've got my friend Amy waiting for me at the gym. Same thing with budgets, right? If your friend, you're shopping with your friend Amy, and she knows you're saving to pay 50% down payment on a new car, and she sees you going to spend, $20 on a t-shirt you don't need, she can say, hey, I thought you said you wanted to buy that car, and keep you back on track. So accountability. Um, And then the last major thing that throws people when they're trying to stick to a budget is fluctuating items. Things like your power bill, your utility, your gas bill, your water bill, things that you pay every month, but there's not a good gauge for how much you're going to be paying. And this one, the best thing you can do is look back over the last 12 months of what you spent and add them all together, divide by 12. That's going to give you your average for how much you spend in a given month, on average, for each of those bills. So say we'll take a power bill. Sometimes my power bill is only $200. Sometimes my power bill is $350. So instead of having to fluctuate $150 depending on the month, makes it harder to budget. I just average that out and I pay $275 a month no matter what. So oftentimes it's lower in the summertime. So I pay $270 even though my bill might only be $215, and I start building a credit. So then by the time I get to the winter time where my bill is $350, I still only pay that $275. And that gives me an easier place to continue to budget, with the idea that none of this is perfect. Occasionally, you're going to go get something beyond your impulse spending budget. Occasionally, you're going to have a bill that you have to pay, even though it's way different than what you expected. Occasionally, we're going to have emergencies that are beyond our capabilities. Things like that happen. That's why budgets are living, breathing documents. They're a guide. They are not a be all end all. If you fail, meaning if you've budgeted a certain amount and you spent more than that, or you spent that on categories that you hadn't planned on, so you spent more on food and less on savings this month, it's fine. Look at it, reflect on it, and do better next time. The idea is that we fail forward. As long as you're making continuous effort and progress, and you're not just throwing it all to the wind and saying, hey, this sucks, it's never going to work, you will make progress forward on your budget. So think about those things as you're thinking for yourself personally of why sticking to a budget can be hard.